After 4 rounds of interviews for a design firm in California, I got a very polite rejection letter just as my lease was about to end and I was all set to move to the West Coast. The email explained how COVID had shifted the firm's hiring priority from a design-based role to one that would focus on fundraising. I lost sleep that night. As a graduate of the COVID class of 2020, I reconsidered my decision to study architecture. And I thought about everything I could do instead of applying for more architecture jobs. From doing a PhD to joining a nonprofit to even becoming a bartender. I ran the whole gamut in my head that night and thought about all the people I knew who were associated with architecture but were doing some pretty incredible stuff. My name is Vaissnavi Shukl and this is Architecture Off-Center, a podcast where we highlight unconventional design practices and research projects that reflect the emerging discourses within the design discipline and beyond. Architecture Off-Center features conversations with some exceptionally creative individuals who have extrapolated the traditional fields of architecture, planning, landscape, and urban design. On this podcast, you will hear from recent graduates like John Wagner and Natieli Kiroz on what it is like to work in the Rohingya refugee camp in Bangladesh.
To think about the idea or the issue of migration specifically around space, because it's about land and territory and space, that one group is, excluded or forced from or pulled out of one place and is introduced into another. And so the implications for this in terms of urbanism and settlement and landscape and territory are multifold.
Know what it takes to design for the female body when we speak to midwife Christina Alonso.
So one of the things that happens when you're pregnant is that you're often told to get up on these gynecological tables that are very narrow. And as you become more pregnant, you become larger and larger. And these tables are like, oh my gosh, I'm going to fall off. How am I going to get on this? And so we were like, well, we don't actually need this table. So what we have is a single bed. So it's a lot closer to the floor. Women just have to, sit down on it. It's a lot more comfortable. And their children fit on the bed.
And also chat with my good friend and collaborator Karan Saharia on the importance of tracing religio-political influences in Indian architecture and planning.
But this is also reflective of the larger societal change which is happening, like the idea of creating this political identity in the name of religion to create a kind of majoritarianism that is, in trying to be aggressive in its aspiration materially, is almost creating this exclusionary agenda at the same time.
What I hope to get out of my guests is an honest, raw, and exciting conversation about their work, their interests, and bring into focus unexplored domains and ignored geographies, or just things that don't necessarily occupy the center stage in our day-to-day design conversations. We will also talk about what's next for them, and acknowledge that sometimes we don't exactly know where we're headed.
What's next for me is $1 million question. I don't know. But of course, I think this is obviously something that we tried out as sort of an academic experiment.
Vaish, to be really honest, as interesting as this topic is, this topic has made me realize how inconsequential I am in this bigger political choreography of things that are happening.
You can't solve a geopolitical crisis with architecture. But that's not to say you can't give respect to the people who are completely marginalized by powers beyond their control.
You can subscribe to Architecture Off-Center on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. New episodes are released every alternate Thursday. For more information, head over to archoffcenter.com and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at archoffcenter. That is ARCHOFFCENTRE.